I already create a clean architecture with CQRS pattern and along with Mediator R. So this is our user interface is API, okay, and I already created that that get, post, put, delete endpoint in our API user interface. Okay, so see, first let's see the output, how's working. It is similar kind of things. Okay, let's execute first. Okay, see, there's a no data because as of now my blog is empty, so that's why it's empty. So let's collapse and then let's add some data over here, then add some blocks so that I can able to see the data. Okay, let's try and just add on a C sharp first block. My it's a C sharp, and then it is a C sharp is a C sharp is a good language or popular language, actually popular language. And then author is, who's the author is a kkp, and just image like for dummy example, the kkp.png, or also c sharp.png, like that. Okay, and then just execute and see the output. See, output is there, like generate id is 3 and the name is this, and this 2001 is the response output we have get it. Okay, and let me check like whatever we have inserted, add a new block, so that is there or not. Okay, let's execute. See, I added one block, so I can get one. So let me try one more, like change it to C sharp to like angular, and then angular is also like angular is a good, angular is a client side app or popular client side app also, and like kkp is this, this should be change of angular. Okay, angular. Okay, let's execute. See, it is 201 and generated id is 4, and it is angular, and this and so let me check for the get all the blocks endpoint, call the get all the endpoints, and see, there's a 3 and 4 is there. Okay, and there's other endpoints as well we have created over here, like CRUD operation, like we can get id based on the id also, right? Okay, so let me try that id, like suppose for example 1. Okay, the block 1 I want. See, there's a 401, that means I don't have any id of 1. So okay, so let me try 3 because we have exist 3. So see, 3 is there. If I change to 3 to 4, so definitely you will get that 4. Okay, and then similar to, we want to update some id in some data, okay, in this block. So how we can achieve? Very simple, like same things. If I want to update like 3, so just put a 3 and then change it to 3, and then I want to 3 was C sharp, so I want to change C sharp to like clean architecture. Okay, so like this is a block of clean architecture, so clean architecture, and this is a nice blog, like for example and it is also kkp, and then it is a clean architects.png. Okay, and then let me execute. See, 204, that means it's success. And let me verify it, like whatever things we have update, it is update or not. Let me get it all the block. See, I change it, it was previously was C sharp, so I change it to clean architecture, and those all the property also updated. And there's another endpoint is for the delete. Okay, so I want to delete like id 3, just execute it. Like 3 is deleted. Let me check one more time for all the get blocks. See, 3 is gone, only remaining is 4, and that is for the demo over here. Okay, and in this session actually in this series we'll create many too many things, like how we can create a architecture, how we'll create how we'll create architecture and how we'll set up that architecture, and how what are the prerequisition over there, what is the packages required. So those will like include, and as well as one by one every layer. Like this is a if I talk about clean architecture, so already it is four layer, like infrastructure layer, domain layer, application layer, and then UI layer. So every layer will implement one by one in next upcoming city upcoming series. Okay, so this is overview, and we'll talk about also something like what is clean action. I also brief introductions on this clean architecture and everything in our basic one. If you go to my channel, so definitely you will get those one. But yeah, I create another one. This is the advanced level, so definitely I'll explain a little bit for this, like clean, what is the clean architecture, again. So clean architecture is you know uh, an architecture approach that emphasizes separation of the concern and dependency inversion. It's consisting of the several layers and with the clear responsibility. For example, see over here, like if I talk about that presentation layer, so this is presentation layer, and this presentation layer actually handle user interactions, UI components, API controllers. Okay, and then if I talk about application layer, so application layer contain application specific business logic. So all the business logic will include over here. Okay, don't worry about that. I include also a CQRS pattern over here, so we'll explain in detail as well. So move it to next. What is that? Domain layer contain, actually the domain layer represent the core business domain models and rules. Okay, so all the domains and models over here in this the domain layer. Okay, and then finally we have that infrastructure layer, and the infrastructure layer provide implementation of the external concern like database, APIs, and external services. Those are things we have installed. So these are a clean architecture. Okay, about little bit I will give you, sir. So now I will give the some overview about the CQRS pattern. Okay, so like see, this is a CQRS pattern. We'll use command, query, etc. Okay, so CQRS, what is the CQRS pattern? So CQRS pattern is the read and write operation in an application, optimize each of every each for their specific needs. It's introduced to distinct pattern, actually, like one of the command. Okay, and the second one is a query. So in this command represent the operation that change the state of the system. For example, create, delete, update. Okay, such kind of things. Like see, if I more expand, so you will able to see. So don't worry about that, I will create from scratch in my next upcoming video. Okay, and if I talk about that queries, okay, now next one is a query. So query represent operation that retrieve the data from system without any modification. So like that, like I'll get the data, like get blocks and get block by ID, without modifying the data. Okay, and also in this layer actually we'll put some common things like like validations, and also we'll handle the mapping things. So don't worry, I'll go with the details in the later. Okay, now in this architecture actually we'll use like, okay, we use CQRS pattern, and also we have used in the mediator pattern. So what is that actually? So let me open that, like open the user interface like API layer, and if you go to block control, block controller, so you will see that mediator pattern. So what is mediator pattern actually? Okay, let me zoom it. I think you are not able to me zoom it. Yes. Okay, so see, like mediator pattern call directly in an application layer and now get the data. Okay, and same behavior for insert, update, delete, everything. you know so what is that mediator pattern? So the mediator pattern is facilities communication between different components of an application without them having direct dependency on the each other. It's promote loosely coupling by introduce a mediator component responsible for coordinate the interaction. Okay, so these all are our the view overview of that clean architecture, CQRS pattern, and and yeah, mediator pattern. And also I will use IMAP and etc. So in the next video we'll create all the project setup, how we can set up a project. Okay, infrastructure setup will create it in next upcoming video, and then one by one we'll implement that every layer. Okay, so let me open the Visual Studio. Okay, and here you need to just create a new project. Okay, let me search web API. In this series I will take a web API template for my user interface. But yeah, we when later on in the another series definitely I show you like how we can use this clean architecture many another template, like for example MVC application or other UI interface. Okay, so let me create ASP.NET Core web application, not web application actually. We require web API, so you have to use this one. Let me zoom in for you. Okay, see, this is a template where actually we mention an ASP.NET Core web API along with C Sharp. So definitely before creating, definitely you have to check out like, okay, what is actually we are choosing, like C Sharp or F Sharp, whatever uh, languages we have chosen. Okay, so next, okay, here we have to specify the name. Okay, let me put some name. Okay, clean architecture. Okay, I'll put the short name clean architecture with a CQRS pattern, CQRS and mediator R. Okay, mediator R, and it is project name is API, so let call is the API. But yeah, this is a solution name. I don't want to use the solution name also API, because solution name should be as a unique. Okay, and then layer wise you can just put your project name. Okay, let's create a next. Okay, here just you can use simply like configuration as to whatever the default things you can just use it. Okay, and one more thing, don't use top level statement. So yeah, you can just keep it whatever over here and click next. Our solution has created, and along with we have created that presentation layer. Okay, so that is fine. Also, if I will don't go over details of this web API project solution, because I already explained everything. If you first time creating web API project, so definitely I recommend to you go to my channel and you can watch my previous or that session. Okay, okay, that is fine. Then what I need to do, I need to now what I need to create, I need to create another library, actually new project or the solution base. So you have to click the solution and add a new project. Okay, and then add a library. I have over here because I last time I chose this over here. But yeah, if you first time, so definitely you have to check like class library, and again you have to make sure like this is a class library, but make sure like what the languages you are choosing, like C sharp, F sharp, or what. Okay, so I just choose like simply class library, which is actually supported .NET and .NET standard. So that is fine for us. Just click go next, and then we have to put some name. Okay, For example, whatever our solution name, so this is our solution name, and then this is a domain layer, so just put it's a domain. Okay, and next, and choose this target framework. So as of now is a standard team support is for .NET 7, so I'll just choose. I have a preview 8, but yeah, I'll choose the 7 because it is a stable version. Okay, and in this domain layer, actually what need to contain here, need to contain actually the entity and the repository. Okay, so let me add the folder only. Just I'll just create a setup. I'll not implementation anything, just create a setup. So what are the content over here? So I'll just put over here, so entity will entity. Okay, entity folder, and another one is like repository. Okay, repository. Okay, so yeah, now this is done, and that is sufficient for here. Just remove this class one. Okay, and then move it to another one. Now required another one is an application layer. So let me again add another project, similar class library. You can search over here or directly over here. And next, now same name of the solution name, and dot we can post, over here like application. I Everything I actually explain in an overview session in previous session. So if you first time, so definitely I recommend to you go to visit my channel and watch my previous session. Application. Okay, application, and then next choose the .NET framework. That is done. Okay, remove that by default generated class. Okay, and here what are the folder structure I required over here. Actually we use a clean architecture, so definitely we required some command query stuff. Okay, so let me add, actually we'll in this series we'll take an example of blogs. Okay, so let me create blogs. Okay, blogs folders. Okay, in this blocks folder we have to, what need to do in this blocks folder, actually we have to insert, update, delete, CRUD operations. Okay, so what are the things we have to do over here under the blocks? Okay, so I need to create a command. Okay, because it's a CQRS button we are using, so definitely there's a two distinct things we required. So first is commands. Okay, don't worry about that, what is command, what is query. I later when will implementation that application layer, I'll explain everything again, but yeah, I'll give in some overview. So you can visit my channel and go to check my previous session video. Okay, and then under this command, what are you know what we have to maintain in this command. So we have to maintain like create blog. Okay, create blog, and then update blog, and similar delete blog. As of now this is sufficient, but yeah, later on we'll discuss and will require, I will add more. Okay, so this is a standard actually. Then command has complete, then we have to require that queries. Okay, so queries. Okay, under this queries, actually what will achieve under this query, we have to, okay, let me commands and query. Okay, so let me add another folder inside the queries, get blogs. Okay, the get blogs and get blogs id as well. Get blogs block by id. Okay, so this is done. Okay, for that CQRS pattern, like we will handle in these blocks like create, update, delete, and as well as in a query part we'll handle get blocks by id and get blocks. Okay, and there are some in this layer actually we have to add one more folder that is called is a common, so that whatever common logic, whatever common service, okay, common, sorry, not command, common. Okay, so in this common actually we'll handle like validations. Okay, like validation, exceptions, and mapping as well. Okay, so let me add like behavioral. Okay, whatever behavioral things we will we have to keep under this folder. Okay, behaviors. Okay, under this behavior actually we'll add some validations and etc, and also we'll add some what call is like if we want to handle some exception, so that should be under in the application layer and we'll use it under this common. Okay, so exceptions, also we can keep it to exceptions. Okay, and also mapping. So these three things is common, but later on we'll add more once we require anything. Okay, so mappings idea is common folder in the application layer we have to use, so that we can use the all over the application, which is the commonly we use. Like for example, validation. So validation is the commonly used, so we'll put over here and we can register as well. Okay, so this is done, and then finally we have to create one configuration things. Okay, okay, one thing I miss, I guess. So one dependency. Okay, I forget that one. Like see, I created the domain layer, but I forget adding the dependency. What are the dependency required? So in this domain layer actually required one more dependency, like mediator r packages. So we'll add that one, don't worry. So first let me add some configuration. So every layer, like, so this is application layer, so I need to register some registering dependency over here. So that's why we have to create one configuration service. Okay, so how can do that? Just create, add new class and create it to configuration service. Okay, call it to configuration service dot cs file. See, this is a configuration, make it to public, and also we have to use a static. Okay, and then okay, now create a method. Okay, we'll create some extension method. We have to create this services extension method, so that this call to our UI interface. Okay, so public static, and then I need to iService provider, iService, not iService provider, I need to iService collection, iService collection. Okay, which is coming from, I think, yeah, Microsoft extension dependency. Okay, that need to add. So yeah, so now first we have to add some packages. Okay, before adding this service. So what are the package dependency required? So let me add first in the domain layer. In the domain layer, just go to manage packages. Okay, and here we have to add that mediator r. So let me search that mediator r. Okay, why are you adding in the mediator and the domain? Because this mediator are using somehow over here, and also somehow the for UI layer. So that's why I call it to here. But yeah, we can use that mediator at an application layer as well. So does not a very big impact, but yeah, that is fine for here, because Microsoft Teams are using in this place, so definitely that's why I'm using same place. Okay, so I use Mediator for this version because this is our latest version. So add this one, apply. Okay, so yeah, now it is installed. If you see over here, okay, see it is green tick, that means it's installed, and also it's saying update and uninstall. Okay, so it is done, Mediator is done. Then I need to install in application layer. So what are the prerequisites on that? I already discussed, but yeah, I required, that Mediator are, AutoMapper, sorry, the AutoMapper Mediator are already I installed, but yeah, then another things is AutoMapper extension. Actually, that AutoMapper extension contain that, a service collection class as well. So that's why I need to add NuGet package like AutoMapper extension. Okay, so let me search this AutoMapper extension. Yeah, so see, this is AutoMapper extension, but I need AutoMapper extension Microsoft dependency. AutoMapper extension Microsoft dependency. Let me choose, let me search. Okay, let me search this one. Yeah, so I'm looking this one like AutoMapper extension Microsoft extension. So if you, okay, so this one actually, uh dependency injection. Okay, so in this here actually there is a lot of dependency, so it is include that abstract dependency as well. So let me install this one, apply. Okay, so this is existing error, don't worry about that. Okay, and one more thing actually we have to use. Okay, one more package is required, like in this application layer, that is called Flu Fluent validations dependency injection. So let me add that one also. So don't worry about that, let me set up, but yeah, when we'll implement, then I'll explain why it's required. Okay, so this is another package. Okay, Fluent validation dot dependency injection extension. Okay, let me add. This is mainly purpose for, validation our command and query, whatever before reaching the command and query we have to validate actually. So yeah, this package will help for that. Okay, so see, this is also installed. If you double click over here, you will see these two packages installed over here. Also, one more thing we have to add, this domain layer actually dependent the application layer. So let me add the domain layer over here. So project dependency, let me add the domain layer. Okay, okay, see, so three dependency over here, an application layer. Okay, uh, one is that, domain layer, and another two is like, AutoMapper extension and dependency on this one. Let me zoom in so that you will aware to see that dependency, what are the dependency over here. See, this is first, this is second, and this is third one. Okay, so this is third one, the domain layer. Okay, so this is fine for as of now, and now move it to here. Let me create a service collection and then bring the namespace. See, using bring the namespace, it is bring over here because I adding those packages, that's why. And then I need to add, some extension name. Like, what is the extension name? It is called like something add application, application services. And see, I need to use this I collection service because it's extension, so that every extension when we use over here, so it will automatically show me that things. Okay, and here we have to resolve some dependency like service dot add AutoMapper extension. Okay, we have to resolve this one, we have to register actually, and assembly, also assembly. I need to bring the namespace cycle assembly. Yeah, it is under the system the reflection. So assembly dot get execute assembly. Okay, so all the assembly will execute and register over here. Okay, for the AutoMapper extension. One is this, and then another one is service dot add. Okay, no, not like that. Okay, later on we'll add, because there's a many things we have to add, but once we try to implement, so that time we'll add and show you why we require that one. Okay, but as of now, for the setup purpose, I think this is required, so that's why I'm adding over here. And one more thing, like services dot add mediator r, map mediator r actually, so that also required. See, let create some lambda expression, and under this lambda expression we have to cfg. Okay, and registered register service for assembly. Actually we have to register service from assembly. Okay, this guy, and that's it. Okay, and that's it, and just return services. Okay, so this is done. Okay, so application layer also done. Now we have to move to that another one, like infrastructure layer. Okay, so let me create another library, add project, similar kind of fashion. Like if you choose, if appearing over here, you can choose over here, neither you can just click and search over here. Then I will choose over here because I have already there. So similar kind of fashions we'll follow, and this is infrastructure. Okay, infra, I call it just infra, I think that is fine. Infra, and then next create. Okay, remove that by default class, and in this infrastructure will contain actually that database things and also repository, so that our AP, our application layer actually direct will not connect direct in the API in the database. Directly will call the repository, and repository will interact you know the database. Okay, so for this what are required, and like first is required in our data, and in this data will contain our DB context, all of the things will contain over here. And also another one will call it repository. Repository actually, here actually in the infrastructure layer will implementation, this is an implementation layer outside outer implementation layer actually. So repository, repository. Okay, so repository, and in this repository actually we'll implement whatever our rules and repository over here. Like for example, I'll create a one repository for connectivity to the database, so interface will be there, and implementation over here. So whatever implementation, it will directly connect with this the context, database, directly interact will here, and then only application layer talk with the what do you say, in our presentation layer. Okay, and in here also we have to create that register dependency, so that whatever dependency in this layer we have to resolve and fix it. Okay, so yeah, let me add a class, similar type of class. Okay, that's called a configuration service. Okay, but this configuration service for the infrastructure layer. Okay, and similar public. Okay, and yeah, one more thing I'm missing again. Like see, this infrastructure layer actually dependent the domain layer and application layer, but already domain layer, let me zoom it so that you can understand very well. Okay, so see, in infrastructure layer dependent in the domain layer and the application layer. Okay, so I already domain layer dependent I add a reference on application layer, so application layer have have the domain layer dependency. Like see, if you open see, the application layer also have a domain layer dependency. Okay, so what I need to do, I just need to add only this two here so that I can have access on both. Okay, when you add that application layer, so if you go to see, I have application layer access and as well as like domain layer as well as all the dependency here like this. In this dependency AutoMapper and Fluent API, everything I have. Okay, so those dependency has been resolved. Okay, now need to implementation over here, like same public static class, and then I need to create a, okay, let me small it. Okay, let me minimize. Okay, public, then static, and then I service collection, I service collection. Okay, and let me add some meaningful name, so that actually what we are doing, I'm doing just add infrastructure dependency services. So let me add this guy and then this. And also here we required one more thing. Actually we required some configuration part over here, because I know I have to resolve dependency, some database things. So in database things, in database configuration will have to come in the UI layer, and then those UI layer will get that configuration. So yeah, uh, so let me add another property what we are passing over here, that configuration. So where I will get that configuration, I configuration configuration. Okay, oh sorry, I configuration, and then make it name same as a configuration, and let me bring the namespace, and it is I configuration, I guess. Let me, okay, so it is I configuration. Yeah, it is required, I think, Microsoft extension configuration abstraction. So let me add this one, just install. Okay, let me install, and it is adding over here. Let this done. Okay, this is done. Okay, and later on also we have to return the service. Okay, that's it. Okay, so this also done, except whatever connection or things will register over here, but yeah, we have to resolve the dependency over here. That's why I call over it here. Okay, these are all the setup done for that domain infrastructure. And here, so see, in the infrastructure layer, just add this packages, and also like that dependency of application layer. Okay, and finally in the in a UI layer. Okay, in UI layer we have to record one dependency of application layer. So how we can add that? Just simply add the reference and add application layer. Okay, and that's it. Okay, see, the application layer have the domain layer and those domain layer, that's it. Okay, so that is fine. I think in application layer, okay, sorry, I think there's two things actually required, that application layer and infrastructure layer. So two dependency required. So let me add another one, that is fine, and infrastructure layer. Okay, so yeah, that the two dependency required in this UI layer, the application and infrastructure. So I add it over here. So now it is done. And what I need to do, I just add whatever that layer wise service dependency I need to register over here. I need to call it over here. So how we can do that? Simple, builder dot services dot whatever the name, just call out over here. Whatever I created the name, I created add application service. So go back to here, just add over here, just put the name. Okay, and bring the namespace. So let me bring the namespace. I think there's some issue directly you know directly not we are getting those uh, namespace. So what I can do, I just adding some namespace like using clean architecture with the mediator R, and then it is coming from application layer. So let me add that application layer. Okay, so see, this is resolve. Okay, if you right click and go to definition, so definitely will reach in the application layer implementation. Okay, now go back again, just save it again. Similar things what need to do, we have to add registration on this one, infrastructure layer. Okay, so I have another extension method, builder services dot add. That call is, I forget the name, but yeah, we can copy it from here. The name is add infrastructure dependency. So go back here, just paste it over here. Okay, and again the name, bring the namespace directly, it should not happen, so don't worry about that. You can just using clean architecture, whatever the our project name, and then what is the this one. So see, once I bring, I automatically change to color, and see it is asking to eye configuration. So where I will get that eye configuration, I will get eye configuration under this builder dot configuration. Okay, so builder dot configuration, that's it. So we can add something like add layer, add layer dependency. Okay, so that's it. Now just build one more time. See, will succeed. Okay, there is a no error, so that our project setup successfully build, and also the setup is completed. Okay, so these, this is the way, very easy, nice or easiest way, so that we can easiest create our whatever package is required we can add, and also set up that project structure. Okay, so this is a clean architecture. Okay, and also we adding that all the required packages. So in next video we'll implement one by one. Like first we'll implement the domain layer. In domain layer, adding some entities, and then whatever uh, the rules we need to add, we'll add and implement, and we'll discuss as well what is the domain layer one by one. And then we'll add an application layer, and how we'll create that create command, delete command, update command, and how we can get that queries, get by queries, and also how we can add that common some validators and mappings things. Okay, as well as whatever required dependency we'll have to resolve as well here. Okay, and then another session will discuss implementation about the infrastructure layer. Okay, and here also we'll add some db context, and then we'll implement and connectivity, that db how we can connect. This is the same example whatever we have in last session. Okay, we have actually created a project setup. We have a user interface layer, we have an application layer, and we have a domain layer, and we have also an infrastructure layer. Okay, so in this session we'll implement how we can implement over here. Okay, so just give a little bit idea. Okay, because I if you first time came over here, so what is domain layer actually? So domain layer actually represent the core business domain models and rules. Okay, so let's get started to implement how we can do that. So already you able to see I already create an entity folder and also in a repository folder. Okay, so let's get started. So first we have to create one entity over here. So as of now I already shown in a demo in my first session, like we actually we are creating a endpoint, blog endpoint where I can create, update, delete, I can do a CRUD operation on the blocks. So first I need to create entity blocks. Okay, so how we can do that? Right click on the entity, add a class, and just create a blogs. Okay, let me create a blogs. Okay, and just make it public so that I can access in the another layer. Okay, and just create some property over here. Okay, already it is see me example, like it should be have a id, name, and then descriptions, and then also created data, etc, etc, whatever we want. But it's for a demo perspective, I just created, I think, just you know not this one, but yeah, I just change it to author. Okay, so let me change it to there and change it to author. Okay, okay, that's it. Let me format it, control kd. Okay, okay, so see, entity has created, which actually represent our whatever entities in our domain layer. Okay, and then we have to create a one repository. Okay, so that whatever repository will I'll call to application layer, and then application layer interact with the API layer, and so that they don't about know that what is the implementation, and implementation would be in the infrastructure layer. So don't worry about that, we'll do session by session and step by step, so every layers. So in this session we'll cover only domain layer, and next session we'll cover in application layer, and then next session we'll cover in infrastructure layer. Okay, so let me create a repository. So what performance, what operation need to do? So let me create a repository for that. Let me create a interface for that, so that it's abstract, and let me name it i blog repository, I blog repository. Okay, that's it. And make also it's a public, and whatever operation we have to perform about the blocks, so we have to create that thing. So let me create a task, so that it is could be a async method, asynchronize. So let me create a list, so that I can return a list of the blocks over here. So let me bring the entity over here, let me bring the namespace block. So see, whatever we created, so let me bring the namespace, and let me all get all blocks. Okay, and async. Okay, that's it. Like that we have to implement, like get all blocks, get block by id, create block, update block, delete block. So such kind of things we have to implement. Okay, instead of wasting time, just a copy and paste. Okay, see, I create similar, like first list of blocks. Okay, and then list only just single blocks by the id of the block id, and then create block and update block and delete block. Okay, so that is done for the implementation perspective for the domain layer. Okay, so I think, yeah, that is done. Also, if you don't know how we can create a setup, so definitely I may comment to watch my first video, my previous session, and see, already we have adding a mediator packages, so that we can coordinate in our user interface to our application layer. We have implementation of domain layer, but yeah, we have to implement this application layer. And in this application layer, actually we have already created a command and query, which is part of CQRS pattern. Okay, so we follow actually in the CQRS pattern like command and query. So in this session we'll cover first get blocks query. Okay, let me zoom in. Okay, so yeah, in this session we'll cover in this get block side, get blocks, all the get blocks. Then we'll cover next session is get blocks id. Then we'll create blocks, delete blocks, and update blocks. Okay, so we'll cover one by one so that we can easily understand and digest. Okay, so let's get started. Let me add first a class, okay, that is called as a view model. So whatever application layer returning the data, actually convert the data of entity from the entity domain entity, so we have to convert in a domain view model. Okay, so that view model we have to create first. So let me call it to blog bm. Okay, and let me create some properties so that whatever we have want to return we can create it. Okay, so just create. Okay, and okay, I guess I don't think we have to return that image URL. Okay, so yeah, that is fine for this demo purpose. Okay, then we have to create a query class. Okay, so how we can do that? Let me create a get blog query. Okay, and make it to public and just inherit I request interface. Okay, see, it is inside of that mediator, inside of the mediator interface. Okay, so let call it and see what need to pass of this here. We have to pass response. So what could be our response? We have to return response as a list of blog view model. Okay, which is just created. Okay, okay, this is a one way. There is another way actually. I think yeah, there's another way we can do that. I think instead of class we can use a record. Okay, there's a new way actually. So in this record we don't record this. Okay, like this way, see, and just do that. Okay, so yeah, there is a two way actually create a query class. The old fashion is the class and the new fashion is the record. Okay, so yeah, I'll move it to that old one also, just for knowledge purpose. I just share you. Okay, okay, and then what need to create? See, we have create a query class. So in this query class we have to implement as a one handler. Okay, so how we can do that in this CQRS pattern? So let me create get blog query handler. Okay, and then make it to public and just inherit I request handler. Okay, so that we can pass it and we can handle whatever our request, what is our response. Okay, that's why we create this handler. And what is our request? Our request is get blog query, which is just created here. Okay, so this one actually our request. So pass it to here, and then what is the response? Our response is just list of blog view model. Okay, so yeah, that is done. And then why is complaining? Because it is complaining, it is an interface, so we have to implement the method as well. Okay, whatever implement in this interface. Okay, so once you mouse over here, then you will see that blurb sign, and just once you click over here, just see the option of implement interface, so you can just implement. Okay, and let me just drag there. Okay, so now see, this is a handler class, handler method is generated. Okay, there's a by default it's just not implement exception is thrown over here implement, so we have to remove and we'll do our things. Okay, okay, now how we can get the data. Okay, in this handler, so in this handler we will get the data from our domain layer. Okay, so see, in this domain layer we already implement as a you know one abstraction repository. Okay, our blocks abstraction. Okay, so we have to inject this one and over here in this handler, and then we have to call those method. Okay, so see, direct I have create control constructor of this handler class, and what I need to do, I just inject this block repository and then uh, control dot, so it will show me the we have to assign of as a field. Okay, so just assign this, inject and assign create the instance of that, okay, of the block repository, and then we can use easily. And how we can use that, just okay, just create a wait, because it is async method, so we have to add a wait, and then whatever our you know create instance property. Okay, read only property is a block repository, and inside the block repository we have those method, so we have to call this one, and that's it. Okay, and then we have to store a variable, so where just blocks. So we have create a property, we have assigned this whatever return type we have assigned over here. But see, the return type is a let me zoom in. So return type is a domain entity. Okay, so we have to convert to our view model. Okay, so there's a two way. Okay, so we have to there is a two way to convert whatever our domain entity to our view model entity. So we can use that IMapper. That is a best way actually to use here. Okay, but that is take some time, so I will create a separate session for that, to convert domain entity to our view model entity. Okay, which is using IMapper. Okay, but as of now, what I will do, I will just convert just normal way, like just select use the link queue. Okay, x create entity, and just create a lambda expression, that view model, and then just author equal to x author, the name, description, and what else is pending, is a pending, I guess, id as well. Okay, so let me fix it, and then break this line to here, and also break one more line, and then finally what need to do, convert to list, so that whatever data it's looping through and convert to here, and then create a list. Okay, and then finally we store a blog list. Okay, and finally we have to return. Okay, yes, so that is done. But yeah, in the next session we'll convert, we will create a IMapper, we implement a IMapper in this clean architecture. Okay, uh, in this application layer, and we'll use that one. Okay, so but as of now, this is sufficient for the get blocks. So what we have to what we have to done, so just need to recap so that we can understand again. Okay, so in this get blocks query implement, what need to do, first we have to create the view model. Okay, whatever view model we have to return to UI and the presentation layer. So we have to create a block view model, and then we have to create a one query. Okay, there's a two way also this create a query, using the record on using the class. Okay, and we use the interface I request interface, and return type is a response type is list of blocks. And then we create a handler, and in this handler again we have to use the I request handler interface, and then use the request get block query, and then whatever response we want, and we have implement that interface method. And here we have to put our logic, our business logic. Okay, so we'll inject also our abstraction class iblock repository, and inside that iblock repository we'll call our method, and just we have to convert and return back to there. Okay, so that is fine for this session. Next session actually, or let me just build so that is there any issue or any error, so that we can make sure there is no error. Okay, see, let me zoom in. So there is no error, it is succeed. Okay, So yeah, next session will create a session of IMapper, how we can implement IMapper and convert it to that entity, domain entity to our BU model entity. Okay, to implement that IMapper. So what need to do, actually, see, I already create a structure of that clean architecture in the application layer, and in this application layer I have already create a common, and inside the common in the mapping. So whatever the mappings we have to do in this clean architecture, we have to keep inside this mappings folder. Okay, so let me create an interface. Okay, not a class, it should be interface. So let me name it to IMAP from interface. Okay, so make it to public. Okay, and it should be a generic, because I'll create a IMapper which is just generic, so that I can use any entity. Okay, and what need to do, I need to create one declaration on this interface. It is called mapping, and inside the mapping we'll use that profile. We'll pass the profile, and this profile will just assign to profile whatever profile dot will create a map, and inside the map will map, actually mapping. So just type of whatever object we'll get. Okay, so this is a generic entity, and then get type, whatever get type over there. Okay, so this is done for IMAP from interface. Okay, let me do the implementation. Okay, so how we can do that, just create a class. Okay, the class, call it to mapping profile. Okay, so let me create that mapping profile class, and just need to inherit of that profile 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 class. Okay, and we need to create, we have to create we have to create a one method. Okay, first we have to create a constructor. Okay, and just remove the byte namespace. Okay, and just we have to we have to we have to do some logic. Okay, so that whatever object will get from that entity, so we actually using the reflection will extract the property and value, and then we'll map over here. Okay, so that logic we have to return. So let me create private void, and just give it to name, like for example apply mapping from assembly. Okay, and pass it to the parameter call is assembly, and we'll have to do some logic over here. Okay, so let me copy paste, because there's a huge line of code to to do these things. Okay, so yeah, see, first we have to typecast of that interface, and then we have to trying to mapping whatever object we'll get in this method name, and then we have to do something uh, the definition and these things. Okay, and then we one by one we get the list of that assemblies types, whatever types we get. Okay, and then we create a profile argument type, and then each types, actually whatever the list we are getting, so based on the each type, actually we'll do one by one get the property and assign to convert over here. Okay, so this is a straightforward implementation. Okay, so it is a generic thing, so don't worry about that. Just use and copy paste and use your application, that's it. Okay, and also it is a very straightforward, nothing it's so more complex. Okay, and what need to do now, just call to that method, so that whenever calling this mapping profile, so this method will call and will actually take that assembly and just map to that object. Okay, so call to apply assembly from that get assembly. Okay, assembly to get assembly. Okay, that's it. Control KD, so that make a formatting this class. Okay, that's it, and save it and just open. Okay, and that is done for implementation of IMAP from. Okay, and now how we can call this map and things. Okay, so we have already have one class of configuration service. Okay, in this configuration service actually we already create, see, the AutoMapper, AutoMapper, we have registered actually AutoMapper and whatever assembly. So already we have registered. Okay, so in this case uh, we don't think we need to do anything. Okay, we already actually registered this AutoMapper assembly. Okay, so I think that resolve the dependency. We didn't do anything over here. Okay, but yeah, once we'll run, and if there is an issue we'll fix it. Okay, and okay, so let me call how we can how we can call that IMapper and convert to our domain to view model. Okay, so to that part, okay, first we have to inject that IMapper class. Okay, so how we can do that IMapper? Just inject IMapper. Okay, and just create a field, and just same things we have to create a initialize, and then inside the constructor inject the IMapper and just initialize. Okay, and then what need to do, just comment out this line. Okay, and see, mapper, when you create a mapper, and this in this mapper dot we'll call the map, and inside the map or whatever things you want to map. Okay, so I want to map that list of view model, block view model. Okay, block view model to what is the source is this. Okay, so this is a domain, see, this is a domain list of domain entity list. Okay, and this is a source, and this is a destination. Okay, so that's it, and just we can just return this one, or just create a where block list. Okay, see, the mapping is done, but one thing we have to do, this is the, see, this is a one line, it is done. So every entity we can just we can map to directly over here like this one line code. Okay, so that is very nice feature give us to IMapper to convert to our entity. Okay, and one more thing we have to do, go to block view model. Okay, and also in this block view model we have to add that IMapper, you know we have to inherit that IMap from that interface, IMap from interface, and then pass it to whatever we have to do. Okay, so we have to do, like, we have to convert to this view model to block model. Okay, block entity. So where is we'll get from this entity one. Okay, see, so that is done. Okay, so let me recall what we have what we have do for this for this mapping. Okay, so first we have to create IMap from generic entity interface. Okay, inside this we have to create one um, mapping declaration. Okay, signature, and then we have to create an implementation over here, that so that whatever assembly we get that IMapper, we can extract and we can assign to our whatever entities we have to pass. Okay, so we have done from here, and then we have to do registration over this configuration service, so that we can resolve the dependency whatever IMapper things we are doing. Okay, so this line helps to actually register our dependency. Okay, and finally in this view model we have to map to IMap whatever our interface, and we pass to which one to we are trying to map. Okay, so this blog entity we are trying to map to this one, so that's why we have just add like that. Okay, so that is done. Let me try to build so that we can make sure there's no any error. Okay, see, will succeed, there is a no error. Next session will cover this get block by ID. Let's get started. So first what need to do, first I need to create a query class, okay, of the get by block. And also why I'm creating one by one, every why I'm creating is showing that on a one by one implementation, because every implementation like is get blocks or get by ID, get by block by ID, or create, update, delete. So every things have some, everything is a similar, but yeah, there is a some minor difference. So that I want to understand, I want to help to understand like, okay, what is the differences and how we can achieve if such kind of scenario will need in our real project. Okay, so actually it is also a real project example, so that's why I'm creating from the scratch and end to end flow. Okay, so first we need to create a class. Okay, let me create a class. Okay, the call is get blocks by ID query. Okay, so let me get that, get block by ID query. Okay, create that class. Okay, and then make it internal to public. Okay, and then set as the class, and same things what we have done in our get list of blocks query class. So I need to inject I request. Okay, and here actually what we need to return. Okay, so we have to specify the return type of here, that response, what is the response we have to return over here. So basically we have to response blocks view, okay, which is already created in my previous session. So and also what need to do, like see this query we need to record one ID, ID parameter. Okay, so that ID parameter, how we can pass that ID parameter. So we have to create a one property over inside this query. Okay, it is very simple, just passing the integer. So if you want to pass an integer, so you can give that, for example I'm just giving an example. So if I want to pass a parameter as integer, so I can set as integer. Or if you want to send a parameter as a class, so you can send a class. Or you can send a parameter as like a string. So whatever types you want to send your query, so you can send it to here. Okay, and just name it to like as here for this, in this scenario I'll pass it to block ID. Okay, so that I can get that block ID from UI and get that filter that from our DB and get that response of that blocks. Okay, okay, so that is done. And then what need to do, I need to create handler. So query is done, now need to create an handler. Okay, so let me create same as it is, get blog by ID query handler. Handler. Okay, so same, we have to just change it to internal to public. Okay, and again we have to inject I request handler. Okay, I already explained in a detail in previous session, so please watch that one. Okay, so see this I request handler, what it's doing actually, they expecting actually two overload method. Okay, one is request and another one is a response. So what is our request? Our request is that query, what is that we have created a query. So just call that query get block by id query. So this is that one. Okay, and then what is the response we have to return back? So we want to return back our response is block view model. Okay, and then what need to do, see, once you specify your request and response, okay, in this I request handler, actually it is saying like we need to implement. Okay, see, this does not implement interface because this is an interface, so we have to implement that interface. Okay, so implement an interface, just you can just implement. Okay, just extract that method. Okay, so see, this is a already generated create like a handle, and whatever request, this is our request, and this is a cancellation token, and this is our response type. Okay, and now in this handle we have to call our repository. Okay, so where is our repository? Our repository is in our domain layer. Okay, so if you go to domain layer, see, here's our repository. Okay, this is abstraction repository, so implementation would be in our that infrastructure layer, so that will cover in next upcoming section. So yeah, don't worry about that. Okay, so yeah, as of now we have to call this one. Okay, in our domain layer, in our application layer. So where is that? Okay, here handler. Okay, so how we can inject it is very simple. Just create a constructor of that handler class. Okay, it is shortcut like CTOR and just tap, and here you can just inject. Okay, pass it to as a repository as a inject, and we have to register also this one in our in our API layer. Okay, in our user interface. So don't worry about that I will show you how we can do that. Okay, so yeah, and also we have to create a assign a private field and assign to in this constructor. Okay, so this is done. Okay, and after that what need to do, we have to call this, we have to implement our method. Okay, so this is our repository, and in this repository call to our method. Where is our method? By id, get by id async. Okay, and in this async method, see, the expected is id, so where I will get that id, this id will get in this request parameter. Okay, in this request dot you will get that block id which is we created. Okay, see, this is our query, this is our request. In this request we have a request ID which will be getting from user interface. Okay, so go back to here. Okay, and then see, uh, now it is complaining. Okay, so what is this complaining? Is complaining just set as the response type. Okay, so just make it to await and async. Okay, also we have to return this block view model. Okay, so but you can see, just zoom in for a little bit. Okay, so let me again. Okay, so see, the response type, let me zoom in again. Okay, so see, response type, whatever our repository is returning is a domain entity. Okay, so that needs to be converted in our that in this block view model. Okay, in our logic, business logic entity or business logic view model. Okay, so how we can do that? What need to do, simply you just inject IMapper interface over here. Okay, and change it to the because this is not private, it is a simple like IMapper class, so just create a variable over here and control dot just assign a create that create a private variable over here and then assign to your IMapper variable. Okay, so it is simple. And then what need to do, just store a variable, whatever response we are getting, store over here in our repository. So we are getting response of this entity, domain entity. Okay, and it is simple, we have to imapper.map. Okay, and specify C destination. What is the destination? Our destination is block view model. Okay, and then what is the source? Source is this domain entity. Okay, so we pass it over here, and simply we have to return, because this is our return type. Okay, so this is complete. Okay, let me build so that we can make sure everything is building fine. Okay, see, complaining, it is not complaining any error, it is not giving any error. So yeah, and just final rebuild so that we can make sure everything is fine. Okay, so see, this is done for this get by block query. Okay, and this next session will actually implement in a command, and inside the command we'll first create will you implement that create block, delete block, then update block. Okay, so till now, thank you, have a nice day, and please don't forget to subscribe. Okay, so first what need to do, first we have to create a one command. Okay, so how we can do that? Just create a class. Okay, make it name is a create blog command. Okay, and make it public. Okay, and similar what we have done in last session. Simple, we have to inject I request and then whatever our response. Okay, so whatever our response about that block view model. Okay, so here we can just pass it to block view, but as per that normally we have written in create command, or obviously just integer like one whatever generated id. Okay, so be up to you like what you want to return. Okay, so you can just pass simply integer, or you can just pass simply string, whatever things. Okay, but in this demonstration I'll just complete returning to the that block model. And in this, what is that our view block model? Just id, name, description, author. Okay, so it is simple. And what is the request parameter we'll get from that UI? Okay, that from UI for that for insert of that that block, what need to required, we require this name. For that user will send user will send to the name, what is the blog name, what is the description of that blog, what is the author name, and what is that image URL. Okay, and that actually that block model, you can go to here, see the view model is already there, so same things. Okay, so I think here is a name, description, or author, so we can keep it to same name, description, or author. We can remove that image property. Okay, so that's it. The create command is created. Okay, now we have to create one handler. Okay, so that whatever command they can proceed via handler. Okay, so let me copy this name, create block command, and right click on that, create a class, and just paste it over here and just adding to handler. Okay, create block command handler. Okay, make it to public. Okay, now again, what need to do? Similar thing we have to do. I request handler, we have to inject I request handler. Okay, and here we have to pass same things again, like this two overload method. One is request, and what is the response. Okay, so what is our request? Our request is this create block command. So just pass it to create block command, and just pass it to also response, what we have what we have to return back to response. So our response would be like similar block view model. Okay, and similar again, we have to implement that things. Okay, so implement interface. Okay, so now it is creating handle method, and now we have to handle whatever our you know the business logic over here. Okay, how we can do that? Simply we have to create a constructor. Okay, CTR, and then finally we have to inject that our domain repository. So where is our domain repository repository? See, iBlog repository. So call it to here. If you don't know about how we can what we are doing here, so definitely I recommend go to my previous session, or from that project setup. So definitely you can understand like why I create that inside the domain I repository or something. Okay, so that is done, and then what need to do, we have to assign a private property and then assign in this constructor. Okay, that is a inject. You have to inject that in iBlock repository. So I did that, and then we have to call to our method. Okay, so what is our method to create a block? So this is that method, create async. Okay, and in this create async, what is expecting? This is expecting, see, domain entity block. Okay, but here, see, what is the entity? It is a different entity, so it will not expect it actually. So what need to do, we have to convert. So this is that way, like we can convert like IMapper, or we can directly just change it to that things like this way. Like suppose for example, where, and just store that entity, blog entity. Okay, and then new, what is that entity? It is a blog entity. Okay, and this blog entity, just pass it to our parameter. Okay, like for example, what we are getting, okay, we have as a name property, so we have to assign from that request that name. Okay, similar that description. So in this description also request dot description, and let me remove that. Okay, so that we are able to see that. Okay, then author, and author also like that request dot author. Okay, we are not passing id because id will generate automatically. So this on entity is created with this blog domain entity. So just pass it to here. Okay, and then this is a async method, so definitely we have to use that await async. Okay, and finally, so in this method, see, in this method actually repository is returning is domain entity. Okay, so again in this domain entity, what need to do, we have to convert to our view model in this model. Okay, so similar things we have to just store over here, like created or result. You can just post up the result, store as a variable as a result. Okay, and then finally what need to do, we can just map it to we have to use that mapping. Okay, so how we can do that? It is very simple. imapper to mapper. Okay, which is already I implement. If you don't know, so please watch my previous session. Okay, and just create a private field and assign to in this here, inject in the constructor level. Okay, and then call it to here imapper dot map. Okay, and what is that destination would be our blog view model, and what is the source, it is our result. Okay, and finally just return as a return. Okay, see, just formatting. Okay, so this is done. Okay, so this is sufficient for this that create block. But yeah, one more thing we'll implement in later. Okay, not here. Yeah, so that validation part. Okay, see, whatever request we are getting from UI, we are not validating, we are directly actually, might be, could be could be that could be that command. So this is our command, so might be could be user send this command is as a null or empty, something like that. Okay, so that we will create some some common, we will implement some common logic. Okay, and that will actually we need to use for that Fluent API package. Okay, so that package will help to validate our entity, whatever user is sending. So we can prevent, okay, if it user name sending is empty or something, or whatever validation we required, so we can set via that Fluent API. So that will do in later. Okay, first we'll just cover everything like create, delete, update, then finally we'll show you how can validate with the Fluent API. So that will do in the upcoming session. Okay, so till now it is fine. So let me build so that we can make sure everything is working fine. Okay, so now see, build is succeed, and also it is running perfectly. Okay, so that is done for that create blog implementation. Okay, and later on, and then next video will actually implement that update part. Okay, started to update query. Okay, so what need to do, first we have to create one command similar what we have achieved in so far last session. Okay, so simple what need to create, that is a update blog command. Okay, and then in this update command blog, just make it public, and inject is simple like that, similar I request handler. And what is the response type, because it is update. So definitely once update we'll need to get just you know that ID. Okay, based on this ID, okay, it is updated or not, so just return as an integer, like whatever updated property, updated ID. Okay, so we can return it over here. And okay, now what is the response type? Okay, so means request type, like whatever request we are getting from that user, so that we have to pass over here. Okay, so where we'll get that, that should be up to yes per your uh, requirement. But yeah, in this here actually we use one blog view model. Okay, so where is I created that one, I created I think somewhere in here. Okay, yeah, see the blog view model. So I can, this property we have to get from UI, so that I can update those property in our database. Okay, so create those property. Okay, so in update command what we'll get from the user ID, name, description, author, same things we have to update in our DB. Okay, so that is done, command is created. And now what need to do, we have to create a handler, update command handler. So how we can do that, create a class, just put some name like update block command handler. Okay, and make it to public, similar fashion. And now again need to inject I request handler, I request handler. Okay, it is getting from this mediator R. And also the here we have to pass two overload method. Okay, one is request, one is response. Okay, so what is our request, same things, like our request is update block command, which is just we have created. Okay, and then what is the response, we have to return back our integer. Okay, so let me return the integer only. Okay, and then what need to do, actually this request handler actually complaining. Okay, need to implement their signature. Okay, so what is the signature, just implement interface. So this is our signature, need to implement handle. Okay, and how we can do that, we have to call our repository where actually we have to send our data. Okay, so create a constructor for that, so that we can inject our I repository, this I blog repository. Okay, so let me inject and create a variable, and also assign, create a private variable and assign to in the constructor level. Okay, so that is done. Now we have to call our repository method, which will update our blog entity. Okay, so how we can do that? Just blog repository update async, and in this update async, actually see there's a two things actually we need to pass. Let me zoom in. Okay, it is okay. Let me zoom in. Okay, see, uh, first parameter is an ID and second one is a domain entity. Okay, so that two things we have to pass. Okay, so first ID will get from that request ID. Request.id is our blog ID. Okay, and then another one is see, the another one is a domain entity. Okay, so domain entity, how we can pass it? Like simply new, or we can just create this entity and separately then we can pass it over here. Like for example, update blog entity. Okay, and just create a that domain blog entity. Okay, and just pass it to whatever our parameter over here, request id to request id, author to author, and description to description, and name is to name. Okay, and id author name. Okay, yeah, that is fine, that is sufficient. And finally just copy this one and pass it to here. Okay, and what is the return type of this method? This is return type of this method integer, so make it to. Also this response our return type is this method, handler method is a integer, so just simply return with the await. Okay, and async. That is done. Okay, so let me build so that we can make sure is nothing we have missed over here. Okay, so build is completed. Okay, so that implementation also done. So just recap what we have done. Okay, because this is very important. Simply first what need to do, you have to create a update command. Okay, and then inject to iRequest handler, iRequest interface. Okay, which is getting from the mediator R. Okay, and we have to pass that whatever response. So in this scenario, our update scenario, we get the response in the integer. Okay, and how we can decide, okay, what is the response we are getting? Okay, so whatever implementation you have done in the domain. Okay, not a domain, actually just whatever your repository method, like that time we can decide it. Okay, what kind of response we have to return. Okay, that method, so same things. Okay, we can just pass it over here, and then we have to once complete your command, update block model command, then we have to create a handler. Okay, and thus that handler again we have to inject that iRequest handler, and iRequest handler also getting this expected this two method, to overload method and a request and response. And that request is our update command block, and response is whatever written type. Okay, based on this actually we create a you know um, implementation method in this iRequest handler. Okay, and here we will put our business logic. Okay, and then call to our repository method, so that whatever interact in database, this will do in this abstraction iRepository. Okay, and that get back the response over here and then get back to UI. Okay, so that is done. Okay, and the next section will implement in this application layer the delete block. Let's get started. Okay, so what need to do first, we have to create that delete command. Okay, so let me create a class. Okay, we can put a name as it is a delete blog command. Okay, and similar what we have done in last session, we have to do same things, because delete also similar to, not similar to update, but yeah, response type is the same. So we will call that iRequest I request interface, and then response type would be a integer. Okay, and what is the request parameter would be in this delete command, that we would be in a id. Okay, so based on this id, like suppose I want to delete a block 5 which is I contain id 5. Okay, so that we have to getting from ui, so that command we have to specify that parameter. Okay, so that is done. Okay, after that what need to do, we have to create a handler class. Okay, just create a handler like similar delete blog command handler. Okay, make it to public, and similar fashion we have to do I request handler, and in this I request handler we have to pass the query that request, that is a delete block command. Okay, and then response is integer. Okay, we have to try to implement that method as well, a request handler. Okay, so now we have to implement here like our business logic. Okay, so how we can do that, simply create the constructor. Okay, just inject your abstraction layer repository, name is iblock repository. Okay, create a variable, assign that variable at a private field, and inject in the constructor level. That is done. Okay, so far we have did. Okay, and now just call it to here, that iblock repository, that delete method, and delete method expected is id. Okay, so where is our id? We can get id from that command request.id. Okay, and what is the response type of this method? It is an integer, so just uh, store as an integer, or yeah, we don't require to store as an integer because just it is also response type of integer. So definitely just put that await async, because this is a async method. So also just pass it a return type. Okay, that's it. So delete command also implementation done. Okay, so just recap what we have done. Simply we have to create a command. Okay, delete command, and the delete command we have to pass. Okay, what is the response type? So response type would be as our integer, and what is the request parameter? That request parameter is the id. Okay, so we have to pass over here, and then we have to create a handler. So in this handler we have to specify whatever command we just created. Okay, so that mention that as a request, and response would be a integer. Okay, based on this request handler we have to implement that handle method. Okay, and in this handler method we have to inject we have to call actually our domain layer abstraction repository. Okay, which will contain actually that delete data from this from the entity or in the database. Okay, and once it's completed, it's written back to our id. Okay, that's simple. Let me build so that we can make sure everything is looks good. Okay, so as of now it looks good. Okay, so now see in the application layer, you know we have complete the implementation of application layer. Okay, so we have complete command, we have complete the query, we have also complete mapping, but yeah, we have to need to do something for the validation, but yeah, that will do in the later. Okay, and because that is a not a part over here, but yeah, that is a something different which is required. Yeah, definitely we do that in our upcoming session. Okay, so far we are good, and now in the next session we'll implement actually infrastructure layer. What need to do first for implementation of infrastructure layer? So this is actually outer layer of this clean architecture. Okay, so first we have to adding some dependency packages, so that actually be using some database provider. Okay, so here we will use, like we can use SQLite, we can use SQL Server, many things. So based on that requirement, actually we have to add some uh, packages. Okay, so in this session we actually using a SQLite, so we have to use some packages. So right click on that, go to NuGet packages. Okay, first package we required actually Microsoft Entity Framework. Okay, so let me add that entity framework, search for that. Okay, so let me, yes, Microsoft framework. Okay, let me, yeah, so Microsoft Entity Framework core, so let me install that one. Okay, done. Okay, then next would be not SQLite. Okay, actually we using in this demo SQLite database. Okay, so that's why we are installing this. If you want to change the data provider, so you can just change it to like SQL Server, so you can just install SQL Server instead of the SQLite. Okay, so for the demo purpose I am using this one. Okay, so let me install that one also. Okay, this one also done. Okay, one last things we required for this infrastructure layer here, tools, Microsoft Entity Core tools. Okay, so let me search that one also, just install. Okay, that also done. Okay, package is installing correctly. You can see, you can go to that project file. Also you can check out, and you can check like what are the things we have installed. Okay, so these three things we have installed. Okay, so that is done. Then we have to implement data. So in this data we have to create one context. Okay, so right click on that, create a context, create a class. Okay, let me name it blog 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 db context. Okay, okay, so let me implement. Okay, make it to public. Okay, and just inherit that db context class. Okay, db context. Okay, db context. Okay, once you will get, see, this is inside of the entity framework. Okay, so that we can implement our data provider. Okay, so let me create a constructor. Okay, inside the constructor actually we have to inject that data context option, db context option. So db context options. Okay, and here you have to mention whatever your db context class. Okay, so our class name is db block db context. Okay, and make it to as a set as a variable. Okay, and then finally call to your base class. Okay, so base class, pass it to actually the base class, because it is passing, then actually it's holding everything. So okay, so yeah, that is done. Okay, so then I can one more additional we have adding over there, so let me remove that one. Okay, and bring that code so that you can able to see. And I think one missing. Okay, yes, that is done. Okay, so this is simple. You if you don't know about that, how we can create and what is that db context class and how we can create it. Okay, so please watch my that old some of the session. Actually I explain everything, like, because this is part of entity framework. Okay, so you have to then learn something about entity framework. Okay, So that is done, and then finally what need to do, we have to create a db set. Okay, and I think we have extra curly brackets. Okay, so only that one is required, not extra curly brackets. Okay, so finally inside the class what need to do, we have to create db set. Okay, whatever db set actually we want to use for the CRUD operation, like insert, update, delete. So here we are taking a one example. Okay, so in this blog we want to insert, update, delete. Okay, so db set we have to pass our entity. So what is our entity? Our entity name is blog, so which is coming from domain entity layer. Okay, and then finally you can set get set property. Okay, that is done for this db context class. Okay, so this is sufficient. Okay, so what we have done, we have created a db context class, we have injected db context, and inside the db context just whatever db context options on this class we have just to pass to in the base class and a base property, and then finally we have set the db context. Okay, so this is part of actually entity framework, so don't worry about that. I explain everything in my some of the video. You can go and you can watch it and you can understand okay how is that working. Okay, and then finally we will implement the repository. Okay, so in previous session, or first session of the domain entity, see, we have created an abstraction repository. Okay, so now this abstraction repository we have implement in this infrastructure layer in this clean architecture. Okay, so what need to do, we have to create this class, implementation class, in here inside that repository, infrastructure repository folder. Okay, add class, just add iblock repository. Okay, done, and then public, make it to public, and then finally what need to do, just inherit that iblog repository. Okay, and implement all the method. Okay, so see, implement interface. So once you did this option, so you will see all the method, all as implemented with this new implement exception. Okay, we will remove and we will do one by one implementation. Okay, so first what we need to do, first actually we have to inject that db context, this db context class, so that whatever operation we will do inside this implementation, so that we can you know we can perform on there. Okay, so let me inject, sorry, let me create a constructor. Okay, so that I can inject that db context class, db blog, db context, and then finally we have to create field and assign a private, create a private property and assign to in this constructor level injection. Okay, so this is done, and actually this db context actually will do insert, update, delete, everything will manage over here. Okay, so this is part of entity framework. Okay, so first what we will do, we will implement create. Okay, so how we can do that, it is simple, very simple. Blog db context. Okay, and blogs dot add async. There is a two method actually, add or add async, so we'll use add async. Okay, and its add async will pass that entity, whatever domain entity we are getting. Okay, and then finally we'll do blogs underscore blog context dot save change. So whatever the entity we have added in this in this entity framework, so we will just need to save changes. Okay, and also there is option of save changes async method, so we will use that async method, and finally we'll return blocks. Okay, whatever new blocks will added will return back to UI. Okay, and it is just complaining just because we using tags, so we have to use async okay, and make sure that await. Okay, so see, this is done. This is very simple. Like I want to insert, update, delete. In actual DB context, allow to that all the operations, like you want to add your entity will be add, insert, update, delete, everything. Also save change, rollback, commit transaction. So and many things, many facility provide actually as a DB context uh, implementation in this entity framework. Okay, so let's move it to the next. Okay, then we have to delete, we have to do delete performance. So let me, instead of wasting of time, just replace that code. Okay, this is very simple. Again, just use this. Okay, and we are also see, they required actually some async method. So let me put some async method, async, and there is a finally is not a right name. So delete blogs. Okay, so see, and also there's an executed method. It is inside of the entity framework.code. So let me bring that namespace. Okay, this is done. Also delete also done. Then finally get all blocks. Okay, so how we can get that all blocks? It is very simple. Just one line of code, you can get that all the blocks from the database. So simply blogs, let me change it to correct name, blogs. Okay, also that name is not correct. Okay, let me blogs, and then finally async. Okay, see, it is also done. Let your inject db context, and then you can get that db set, and then finally to list async. Okay, that is also done. Then get y id. So let me copy paste and also change it to blogs, and change it to async, and then change it to that name. Okay, this is also done. And then finally we have to update. Okay, so here we have to update that entity. Okay, how we can do that? It is very simple. Okay, so that get by id also, this is very simple. Like see, your blogs dataset, and then finally you're just trying to fast and default finding this based on the id, whatever id you're passing. Okay, so it will filter, give us to here. Okay, and finally just implement delete update operation. Okay, and in this update operation we don't require here. Okay, and db context also just release the name and also block. Okay, so finally just complaining something. Okay, now it's done. So see, it is very straightforward implementation. Just inject your db context class, and in this db context class just you can use, just add async, then and then you can just delete. Okay, so delete directly, you can just delete here, and just you can get that all the entities, and then you can just filter the entities, and also you can just update the entity. Okay, so there is a way we can use, and we can implement that blog repository or repository class implementation. Okay, so this is done. And finally what need to do, we have to just make sure everything is fine. Just let me build this solution, and so that we can make sure, yes, whatever implementation we have done, so that is working fine. There is a no issue. Okay, yeah, see, build succeed, there's a no error. Okay, but one more thing we have to do actually, we have to resolve the dependency. Actually we have create db context class, we have create implementation of that block repository. So all of things we have to actually resolve the resolve dependency. Okay, so this is, that's why actually in this layer actually the infrastructure layer, we have created a configuration services. Okay, so in this configuration service we have to resolve the dependency. Either once you will use this one to in your API, okay, definitely you will get that error, it will complaining some error. Okay, so how we can do that? It is very simple. Okay, so first what need to do, see, I created actually DB context class, but we don't know what is the connection string and stuff. Okay, so that's we will getting from that UI, okay, API layer, user interface layer. Okay, and that we will use over here. So how we can do that? It's very simple. So services, okay, dot add db context. Okay, and in this add db context, what is our context? Db context object name, class name, it is a block db context. Okay, so db context, db block db context, sorry, block db context. Okay, and then finally what need to do, you can just create some lambda expression options. Okay, and then finally, okay, let me options, not option actions. Okay, options. Okay, and in these options we have to ask, okay, what service provider we actually trying to use. So okay, so inside that options we will use SQLite. Okay, see, this is SQLite, because we actually use that entry framework, so we can use the SQLite, as well as we can use SQL Server, but you have to add that packages for SQL Server. Okay, but as of now for this demo I will use in this only. And also one more things we have to passing over here from user interface, see, I configuration. So I configuration we have to get those connection string value. Okay, so let me get that value over here. Configuration get connection string. Okay, and then we have to specify what is the name. Okay, so that name could be something like that, block db context. Okay, block db context, actually this name you have to mention in our user interface API uh, application setting.json file. Okay, don't worry about that, I'll mention once I implement it application layer. I'll explain. Okay, and then what need to do, just complete these things, then just check if it is null. Okay, if it is your connection stick null, so what we will do now, we will throw the some exception. Okay, so let me throw that exception, then throw throw new invalid operation exception, and then we can pass some message. Okay, so what is the message? Connection string block db context not found. Let me just give another for as a logging purpose. Okay, why it's missing, because sometime might be we are missing that connection names in this our UI, so definitely it will complaining and giving, okay, you are missing this part. Okay, so we can get easily. Okay, and then what need to do, I think it is complete. Let me close that one, and then finally bracket. Okay, I think few of things missing, let me fix. Okay, so 1 2 3, so there is a one starting bracket, second is starting bracket, and third is starting bracket. Okay, so this one you have to close here, this one you have to close here. Okay, and this one you have to close here actually. Okay, This one, it's close here and here. Okay, we have to add one more thing. So well, let me remove this curly brackets. We don't require that one. Okay, so that is fine. Okay, so that is fixed. That is done. So let me see. Let me just recap like what we have done. We have create, we have create add db context. Okay, actually we call that services, and then inside the services db context, and what is our db context we have just pass over here, and then create options, and inside the options we have to call actually which service provider we are trying to use. So we are trying to use, use SQLite, so and pass it that configuration string, and then if it is null, so definitely throw this one. Okay, this is simple and straightforward. And finally we have actually create that implementation as well. Okay, that iblogs repository to iblog repository to iblog repository. Okay, so that also need to register over here. Okay, so how we can do that? Services dot add transient. Okay, so this is a method to resolve their dependency. So there's a three-way: add transient, add singleton, add scope. So there's a other different way we can do that, resolve our dependency. So here we will use for this service blog repository to blog repository. Okay, so that's it. Okay, let me rebuild again so that we can make sure is there no any error. Okay, okay, see, will succeed. It's done. Okay, it's very simple. Like we have to create, let me zoom in. Okay, it's very simple. First we have to create a db context class, and then we have to implement that block repository, and then finally we have to resolve our dependency over here. Okay, it's very simple, and this is done for this session. Okay, and then this all the layer has completed, like this, domain layer, infrastructure layer, and application layer. Finally, next session will we will use how we can, actually use those layer, okay, in here in the user interface, and how we can call that, application layer and get the data. Okay, then next session will implement API. So basically what need to do first in this user interface web API. Okay, so first we have to create, one controller. So let's make create one controller name. uh, let's make create one controller name is it create controller. Okay, it is should be API controller because it's an API. So don't worry about that, I just implement an API as of now in this demonstration. But yeah, later on we'll implement also how we can use that web application like in Embassy, and that clean architecture also, how we can use this API in our Angular, or how can we use that clean architecture in mobile, .NET MyU applications. Okay, so don't worry, everything will do in upcoming session. Okay, so let me create an empty API controller. Let me put some name over here, like for example it is a blog controller, so let me name is a blog. Okay, so firstly what I need to do first, actually, see, this is a CQRS pattern. Okay, so in this CQRS pattern, so I already explained actually why mediator are, and how we can, call that, uh, why mediator are we need to use to in CQRS pattern. Okay, so I already explained. If you don't know, so go to my, first session. And actually first I need to create a mediator art, so that our mediator art job would be like, in the controller, they will send a request and get that response for this application layer. Okay, without any dependency. Okay, so how we can do that? Let me create one more class. Okay, and class, or just you can say as a controller. Okay, the name is Again, API controller name should be an API controller. API controller base. Okay, let me put as a base controller. Okay, and let me change to abstract so that this can be inherit, other all the controller, and we can use it very easily. And also implement, declaration should be here and implementation should be there. Okay, so that's why we put an abstract method. Okay, and what I need to do, I need to just create one mediator. Okay, so I sender, let me call it to mediator. Let me create a private variable, so let me name is as a with the underscore mediator. Okay, and then finally what need to do, I need to create a declaration protected isender. Okay, and then create a variable of that mediator. Okay, and then pass it to lambda function, and then assign to that private variable. Okay, and after that, if it is null, okay, also we have to pass some condition. If it is null, so definitely it should be some, status like http context dot request. So yeah, uh, request services. Okay, and call it a method. Okay, get required service, and then pass it to isender. Okay, so that okay, let me change it to this too, and set. Okay, so that's if it is null, so just similar as a function, like, okay, we set as a, the condition, like if it is mediator would be null, so definitely, create an instance of that, that for the current, that current required service like iService. Okay, so just initiate a method on this API control base controller. Okay, and what I need to do, this should be called to any other controller, all the controllers, so that I can easily, change to here to that controller name, so that I can implement that functionality or that method and call to our uh, application layer. Okay, so how we can do that, it is very simple. Again, without dependency, inject the dependency. So first I need to create a one get method. Okay, let me create a sync task, then i action result, and the method name would be, the endpoint name would be get all. Okay, get all async. Okay, and finally our implementation. So how we can do that, it is very simple. Let me create a variable. Okay, blogs. Okay, and now I want to call our service. Okay, that mediator service. So where I will get this, will we get from this in our base controller. So let me call that name whatever we created, and then call the send function. And this send function actually asks to send a request. Okay, so I will send a request, whatever our request. So what is our query class? The request query class is that which we have implemented in our application layer. See, if you go to blocks in the query, so I want to call this guy. So if you go, so this is that query class of request query class. So get blog query. So this I need to call in our API controller. Okay, so let me call this directly, and that's it. Okay, and see whatever we are get, this is whatever return type, it is a block view model. Okay, so block view model is the returning type. So simply what need to do, return okay, call the okay method and pass it to our whatever data is getting. Okay, and this is just implementation perspective done, but see, there's need to do something actually for the DB creation. So if you also watch my previous session, so in the infrastructure layer actually, see, I just created a DB context, but our contexts are ready but DB is not generated. Okay, so DB, I need to create a DB. Okay, so how we can do that? Okay, also if you go to my configuration, see, I use actually SQLite. So in this SQLite I have to pass that correction string, and then our DB will be generated based on this. Okay, so how we can achieve that? So go to your application settings.json file. Okay, first what need to do, I need to create a connection string. Okay, so let me copy that name. Okay, so that we can save our time. Okay, so see, simply I just put a variable as a connection string. Inside the connection string I put a name like blog db context. Okay, and I as a SQLite connection string, actually we have to pass like that data source. Where is our data source? This is our data source. Whatever you name you want to change, you can put over here. Okay, I just put like this way. Okay, you can change as per your convenience. Okay, this is first setting is done. Now what I need to do, I need to check like all the references also is there or not. So let's see, there's a two references very important, like one is infrastructure layer and second one is application layer. Okay, the two references is done, so that part also good. So now what need to do, I need to fire two commands so that I can generate our DB. Okay, so how we can do that? It is very simple, but first I think I need to, okay, no, I already actually just configured that dependency, layer wise dependency. I resolve that dependency over here. Okay, so nothing I need to do as of now. Okay, so let me just fire these two commands so that our DB can generate it. Okay, or before generating DBs, let me show you to run our application how is this actually behaving. Okay, so that you can understand, okay, why I need to fire those commands, why I need to generate those DB. Okay, so let me set the startup of API project. Okay, and let me run this project. Okay, see, this one I create a one endpoint, so this is a default one. Okay, so let me try out and execute. See, it is saying blog context is not found, just because till we have not migrated our DB or we have not generated our DB. Okay, so this will be empty. Okay, so how we can achieve that things? So it is very simple. Go to right click and go to manage console. Actually you can go to directly over here as well, package manage console. Okay, you can open this package manage console tab directly over here, but I think here it should option as well, package manage console, it's not there. Okay, if it is not there, so directly you can use other option here as well in the tools. In here, see, package manage console. Okay, so you can go like two way, like from here and here also. Okay, so what I need to do, I need to see our where is our entity. Okay, so our entity class is here infrastructure layer. So what I need to do, this is important actually. You have to uh, carefully do that actually. Without your setting it, the DB will not generate it, because see, our there's a many layer, okay, but in the infrastructure layer we are actually, I generate our DB context, so I need to set the DB context class, and default project is that, and the main project should be our API layer, okay, this two. And also there is a one another things actually, we can directly put that command like, okay, one the primary is this, and then default is should be like that. There's another command, but yeah, this is the easy way, so I'm just showing you. Okay, so what I need to add, migration and then tab. So see, once you add and tab, add and hyphen migration, so you it will show you the that command name, okay. And then what I need to do, just first initiate, first initiate initiate initial, okay, initial, and just add hit. It is asking me is does not design, okay. So one thing actually missing, that this package, okay, the package which we are looking as well actually in the starting, okay. So this package actually missing the Microsoft extended tool, because those command will work, because we are firing on this application user interface, right? So in this user interface this command will fire required that one package. The name is this entity framework tool, okay. So let me add the tool, um, manage NuGet package, browse, name is Microsoft entity framework tool, okay, and then install, apply, accept, done, okay. Once it's done, let me make sure like it is there, okay. See, this one is there. Let me zoom in so that you can download and install easily, okay. And now again go to package console, let me add migrate that first initial, then hit enter. See, again it's saying block db context is not found, okay. So something is wrong happening in my application, so that need to figuring out, okay. So that could be happen, like might we have had many things, so could be happen like we have missed something, so that also you have to know like, okay, some kind of in things if we are missing, so how we can resolve it, okay. So it is saying that block context not found, like connection string block context not found, that means connection string data it is not found. So let me check our name is, see, the name is wrong, okay. In here whatever I pass it, or just whatever I just here mention in this configuration, that is mismatch, okay. So ideally you have to do this to change to here, or this to change to there. So I would like to suggest change to this to there, okay. Just change to there, and let me fire one more time, okay. See, the start succeed and undo the section, that means your migration has been done. So let me verify what actually migrates. So see, once migration done, so this folder will be generated. Let me zoom in for you, okay. This folder will be generated. Inside this folder actually, see, the two class means two file will be generated also. One is that that snapshot, and one is another one is that whatever our query or whatever our entity, okay. So see, in this here it generated create table, its block table will be generated with this parameter, okay. And down also there up and down actually. So see, there's a up and down, so it is created, automatically. And also in this snapshot you are able to see that actually what is that integer, which property integer, which property that, whatever things actually these are there. Okay, so this is done. And finally one last command we have to do over here, then update database. Okay, so see, once you put that update and then tab, you will you will to see that many command. Okay, so what I need to use here, I need to use update database, so that, so this, see, this is just generated. Okay, add migration just generated your data. Okay, but once without upgradation it will not create, insert in your DB. Okay, so let me add, means hit this command. So see, the it's generating. Okay, you can verify as well. Okay, see, so see, this DB is generated, SQL DB is generated. Okay, and if you open this DB, okay, so let me open our tools. I have a tool, SQLite tools, so that we can check as well, like uh, whatever entity is actually generated. Okay, so remove this guy, remove database, the old one. Okay, and just add a database, choose. Okay, where is our location? So our location is clean architecture, not this one, clean architecture short one actually. Yes, this one, clean architecture. Inside the API folder, this is a DB. Okay, and just okay, double click, blog. See, there's three properties generated as of now. Let me check there is a data or not. Let me fire one query, the data, or there should be some fire query as well. Add a query, let me find that query section. Yeah, this is that insert query or delete query. Okay, will comes later over here, but yeah, first I think we have to check that query section. Where is that query section? Okay, so this is that section actually. This is tool of SQLite Studio. Inside this open SQL editor, here you can just select star from blocks, and you can just find a query like is there any data or not. Yeah, there's no data. So what I can do, I can, okay, what I can do, I can just run our application. Okay, and let me see, uh, try out, get the data. See, there is no data because as of now we don't have any data. So let me insert one data as well. Okay, so how we can do that, I think there's an option also. We can insert, like I want to insert one. Okay, and ID, I think automatic should update, so let me name is C sharp. The name is something description, author is KKP. Okay, and just add. Okay, so let me again fire that query, select star from blogs, let me fire. Yeah, now is one data over there. So let me again fire our API, execute. See, the data is over there. Let me debug so that you can understand the flow, how is actually uh, working, like how is actually the, and actually flow is working, like that, mediator how is working, and CQRS pattern how is working. Okay, so let me debug over here. Okay, let me debug finally over here. Okay, and let me debug. Okay, let me execute. See, debugger is here. Go to here and go to that class, go to implementation. Okay, click here, Okay, there is no, we can't put over here, but yeah, where I can handle this request, you can put debugger over there. So let me open the query and handler. Okay, so put over here. Okay, and let me F10. See, once you have 10, your request is here, and whatever request over here, nothing, just get the data from the your, you know, in this here blog repository. Okay, if you want to go here as well, I can go to here as well, just for understanding purpose. Let me again F10, go to here, F10. See, the repository in this blog repository is reaching to, infrastructure layer in repository, and here it will get the data directly for the DB. Okay, and get the data. See, data is over here, whatever data, and thus returning to here. Also it is mapped. See, data is getting from the repository, then mapping also to view model. Okay, right now it's converting as a view model, and then return back to our controller. Okay, and finally you are able to see the data, whatever data is there, and just continue. See, data is here, 200 request. Okay, so this is actually flow of CQRS pattern with mediator R, uh, mediator. Okay, so let me implement another get request. So this is a get all blocks, but I need to implement, in this session, that get block by id. It is similar kind of functionality I need to do. What I need to do, just another get endpoint. Okay, but in this time we want to get the data uh, by the id. Okay, so what need to do, I need to pass. Okay, I need to pass as a id. So it is a route parameter id. I think if you don't know about that, how we can route parameter and things. So I have old session in for the web api session, so you can go and check out and understand, okay, how is that working, that web api router section. Okay, so this is done. Then public, also async, and then task, and then result. Okay, I action result, and then finally call to get by id async. Okay, and then finally pass to that id, so that whatever uri parameter will map to over here in this parameter. Okay, we have to pass same whatever we have used over here. Okay, so id, and then similar again, we have to call, we have to store data, we have to store one, we have to create a variable, local variable like blog, and then call to our mediator. Okay, mediator call that query, mediator send method, and inside the send method we have to call our this, query request uh, class. Okay, so what is the name of that? Get query get block by id. Okay, and inside here we have actually, if you go to implementation, see, we need to pass, one parameter. Okay, so how we can pass it? It is very simple. Like, see, is already there. Just whatever class, just close that class, create instance, and then you have to pass that, you know blog id as a whatever input from the ui. Okay, this is done. And finally, what I need to check, actually there is a need to check one thing. I need to check if it is blog is null. Suppose might be sometime this id is not match in our db, so that time I need to return actually bad, return to not found, because data is not found. So we can return to this, and otherwise just return okay. Okay, so this is also done. I want to just remove actually that default controller also. Just I want to delete actually the default controller, so that no confusion. Okay, so yes, so let me run again. Okay, now see, this another endpoint also get created. So let me try. If I pass to, if I don't pass anything, so it will saying okay, it is a validation. Okay, also if I pass something is not match, so suppose 6 is not match, so it will shows the 404. Or if it is match, I think there's a one id 1 is there exists, so see, if it is there, so 1 is returning. Okay, so both are working. Okay, so on this session, that is sufficient. Okay, and in upcoming session we'll cover that, insert, update, delete. Okay, those are things we'll cover in next session. This is a web API layer. Okay, here I have to go in this block control. Okay, so in this block control we have created, see, we just minimal code we have just to call in API, and we have achieved everything. Okay, so let me create that endpoint, like post endpoint. Okay, so first we have to create one HTTP post endpoint. Okay, and then we have to create public async task, and then iaction result. Okay, and then finally I have to call the method name is a create, and then finally create block command. Okay, call to the create block command, and finally I want to call that mediator. Okay, and that mediator actually talk with the application layer. Okay, so what I need to send, I need to send that command, whatever we have sending as a command. Okay, so that I need to send over here. Okay, and whatever it is returning type, it is returning as a block bm, so just store is a where created block. Actually it is a result of whatever, getting the result. Okay, after creating into db. So once it's done, so I need to call this endpoint, actually get by id endpoint, so that whatever id is generated, okay, based on the id I just called again this get endpoint, and get the data to user, so that user can confirm, okay, it is successfully generated or not. Okay, so what need to do, just set as a return. Okay, return, and then create it on as a method created at action method. What actually required in this method, this is a 3 overload method. So see, I can pass the action name and route value and that value. Okay, so just pass to action name, so name of, okay, name of action name is, what is our action name, it is get by id. Okay, and now I need to pass as a route parameter, so let me create an anonymous object. Okay, and then whatever expected route parameter is id, and where I will get that id, I will get the id whatever returning type of that, mediator or response. Okay, and then finally I need to pass that value object. Okay, so let me pass that object. That's it. Okay, see, it is very less of code, and it is a clean, that's why it's a clean architecture. See, it is a clear code. Okay, so only just mediator are, mediator are actually calling our application layer and get the data. Okay, we get the response. Actually there is a no dependency, direct dependency. That's why actually it is a clean architecture. It's a very nice code and nice, flexibility give us. Okay, so this is done. Let me debug. Okay, and see like how's that working flow the working. Okay, let me run and see, it's running. And once I post, click the post, try out. Okay, let me name it to uh, clean architecture. Okay, the blog name is a clean architecture, name is uh, clean clean architecture is a good approach. Okay, let me just as a our author name is kkp. Okay, and let me execute. See, once you execute, you will get the data. Means you will debugger point will hit here. Okay, so put debugger point as well here. Let me continue. See, I reach it to application layer. Okay, see, this is our application layer. Inside the application layer, actually, uh, go to commands, and in the commands, actually, you will get that command handler, and command handler actually that request comes up. Okay, and then debugger just whatever entity return to the domain entity. Okay, and pass it to our repository. Go to implementation. Okay, so once you here, it is actually part of that infrastructure layer. So infrastructure layer, we get the entity. Finally, it is called to db context class, and db context class actually just save it and then return back to again AKC generated 10 and return back to our controller application, and then application to controller, and finally it's called to our main endpoint. Let's get by endpoint and see, this is just generated. Last generated is 10, id is 10, and then whatever our things, it is just created. Okay, and let me check in our console. Okay, console also, see, it is generating a insert command. See, this is generating a insert command. Okay, see, like select star from that blocks. Okay, you will get the data, and this is our one. Last one is 10. Okay, I think we are missing something, like we are not giving the right db name. Okay, so now finally I selected and then get it. So data is 10. Let me execute one more. Okay, let me execute one more, like instead of clean architecture, let me call to Oc Octans. Actually, it is a new framework. So Octans is a good UI framework, or allow to. That's it. I think that is sufficient. Okay, execute, continue. Okay, so it is generated 11, and let me check in db. Should be 11. Yes, now see, this is generating. Okay, so that's it for that post endpoint. Okay, and in upcoming session, actually we'll learn and we'll implement like next two things. The more two things is left in the controller, like the delete and delete and post or put. Okay, so far what we have done, let me recap. Okay, so we have created, just zoom in. Okay, so we created domain layer, we have implement domain layer, we have infrastructure layer, we have also that application layer. Now we are actually working on that web.net core web application, which is actually will try to integrate our clean architecture and do that insert update delete and all the CRUD operation. Okay, so let me open that block controller. Okay, so in this block controller, okay, so far actually see, we implement the get, we implement the get by id, also we implement the post. Okay, now we'll implement that put. Okay, so first what need to do, I need to add one http put. Okay, http put, and then I need to create one method. Okay, let me create public task, and then it is a just I action result, and just create it for that update. Okay, and just pass to two parameter. Okay, not two, yes, two parameter. So what are those? Okay, so those are, so first would be like integer. Okay, whatever ID we want to update, so those ID you have to pass. And then another one is like what is the body. Okay, so in this body we have to pass what are the parameter we have to update. Okay, what are the field we have to update. So we have already as a command, we have already created that command. So update blog. Okay, block command. Okay, so pass as it is, just set as the variable. Okay, so if you go to this one, if you go to implementation of that block, see, it's contain like this three property: id, name, description, and author. Okay, same thing you have to pass in the body. Okay, and now what I need to do, I need to check first, first condition. Okay, there is a condition first, like, okay, whatever id. Okay, so those id I have to match with this, actually this id will come into a route parameter. Okay, so let me define that as a route parameter first. Okay, so let me, this is a define syntax. Okay, in the route parameter. So if you want to pass any id, so you just mention this id, same name you have to pass, so that they can actually serialize and you can get this id. Okay, so now what need to do, you have to check this id. Actually, if not equal to, this command, this update command id means the body id, if it is not equal to, then what I need to do, I need to just return it is a bad request. Okay, which is we saw in our demonstrations in this starting of the lesson. Okay, so this is done. Okay, and now what need to do the next. Okay, so after that, once the validation complete, okay, I need to call, that mediator which we have already, created in this, abstract class. Okay, so if you don't know, so I'm especially recommend, please watch my, the previous session, or I guess just or just you need to follow the all my clean architecture session. Okay, so let me call that method. Okay, that mediator, and then send async, and then pass it to that whatever object. Okay, so this is our object I need to pass, and this is actually just a async method. Okay, so let me pass that await, and then await with async. Okay, and then finally it is a return type. Okay, so what I need to return in this in this parameter, in this what do you call, it's just a endpoint, like put endpoint. So I need to pass, or I just need to return, no content, because I nothing I have to return to user, right? So that's why I just pass to no content, so that it is saying 204 to user. Okay, see the 204 status. Let me zoom in for you. 204 status, so that it is tell us like, okay, yeah, command execute successfully, and it is updated successful. Okay, so that's it for here. Okay, let me put a debugger point so that I can check it. Okay, like how is that working, flow is working over here, like how we call, see, this is a minimal code we have just called to our clean architecture. Okay, so that's why it's called a clean architecture. Only just one line code you have to call to here. There's a no dependency of the application layer. It will handle, with the mediator R pattern. Okay, so let me run this application. Okay, and let's see like how's working, like how's the code flow is working. Okay, with the using a debugger point. Okay, it's run. And let me check how many blocks is there. Okay, remove that debugger point, old debugger point. Okay, okay, now I have many data over here. So let me update this 11. Okay, the block id 11. Okay, so just try one 11, and just pass it to 11. If you see, that is at that place, like if you not match this route parameter to body parameter, so it will complaining, okay, it is bad request. Okay, so let me try it. Okay, just execute. Okay, see, it is getting over here. See, id is 11 and command id would be is 11. Okay, it is 11, I guess. Okay, so it is 11, then it will update. Okay, I suppose it should be, I have to change actually to 11 to 10. Okay, but no issue. I'll let me check like it is updating properly or not, then we'll check the validation. Okay, definitely this will not going inside to bed request, because this you know this condition is true, right? So okay, now let me debugger point in our application layer. Go to application layer. Okay, in this application layer, go to here, go to commands, go to updates. Okay, and go to update block handler. Okay, in this here, just debugger point, put debugger point and just continue. See, whatever web API controller, it send request to our API layer. Okay, and those same request we have got, okay, which is we sending to UI. Okay, what they're doing, just you know trying to map. Okay, like see, this is our view model. Okay, this is a command, and but our main repository, which is connectivity with this domain entity. Okay, so that's why we have just to convert over here. Okay, so let me over here, and also let me go to implementation, so that you able to see that okay, how is actually updating. See, this is our infrastructure layer. If you go to solution layer, see, this is the infrastructure layer. In this infrastructure layer, we have implement like this insert, update, delete repository, along with this injecting our db context class. Okay, which is actually responsibility to insert, update, delete data to our database. Okay, so let me continue. Okay, see, it is reaching over here, so it is just update. It's go back now. See, it is getting over here in the controller. Continue, and now see, that is a 200. Okay, it is a 204 actually. Okay, and now let me validate the data again over here, like how's the data. See, the 11 data has been changed with this string, because we haven't passed nothing over here, right? Just pass as a string, that's why. Okay, let me just do that validation check. Okay, just in the body I just passed to 12, but in the route parameter I just passed to 11. Okay, let me execute. Okay, debugger point is reaching there. Okay, and now let me debugger. See, it will fail, so that's why it's going to inside, and that it will return to bed request. See, the bed request. Okay, so that is done for this session. Okay, so that is done for this session, and next session we'll implement that delete, how we can delete those blocks. So that will implement in our web API. Let me open and go to the controller. Okay, this is a API layer. Okay, and go to that block controller, and in this block controller we have till now only just get http get, http post, put. Okay, now we have to implement the delete. Okay, it is very simple, nothing we have to do, just call it as a simple code. Okay, and just call one endpoint. So just create a one endpoint like http delete. Okay, inside we have to pass one route parameter based on this id, actually block id we have to delete. Okay, and just create one method, async task. Okay, I action result and delete. Just call as a method name as a delete. Okay, and then pass it to id, so that whatever the route parameter, it will match. Okay, and then what need to do, you just call to your mediator. Okay, mediator which is inside your base class. Okay, so just call this mediator. Okay, if you don't know how we can achieve, how we can implement that one, so please especially recommend to you go to my previous session. Okay, so let's call this mediator, and mediator will have a method to call our application layer which is interact. Okay, and then pass to our command. So what is our command? It is just we already just create a delete command. Okay, in this application layer. So delete, just although delete, or let me check what is that command name which is we created. So go to application layer, and inside the application layer you open that blocks and then commands, and inside that command the deletes, and this is a delete block command. So let me copy this delete block command over here. Okay, and then just pass to id, whatever id we have getting for the UI, and just assign to over here, and that's it. Okay, and just this is a async await, async asynchronous method. So let me fix that it's line, quick line. Okay, so this is just fixing, and that it is asking a return type. So what is the return type? Just check it. Okay, so it is just returning integer. So let me store as a integer id, or we can just return nothing, because this that id, based on the id we are not doing any logic over here. Okay, so what we'll do, just simply return to no content. Okay, because this is the delete method. So here we actually that api we have to pass that 204. Okay, which is, see, this is saying 204 is no content. Okay, so that means there's a no content we have written to UI. Okay, but yeah, it is successfully execution successfully. Okay, this is done. Let me put debugger point, and let me open and see how is that working. And it is very simple line code of, that's why it's clean architecture, call as a clean architecture. So nothing dependent in the UI layer. Okay, so let me open this delete. Okay, let me check first how many records do we in our application, in our database. So see, there's a many, suppose we have to delete to 11. Okay, just put to 11 over here, id 11, and just execute. See, once you execute, you will get this debugger point in this block controller, and go to your handler, application layer handler, and inside the application layer handler just debugger point over here, and just continue. See, your application layer get this request, and yeah, 11 is request, and then it is calling to infrastructure layer. So go to that infrastructure layer, repository. Inside the repository, just looking for that delete operation. So see, and then continue. See, it is reaching this infrastructure layer, and finally they will delete from the db. Okay, it is calling the db context and entity framework to responsible to delete over here, and then finally return back to our UI application and UI, and then finally running your application and run back to our UI. They get that success 200 204. Okay, and let me check this 11 is 11 exist or not. Okay, so last one is 11. So let me execute. See, that last is 10, but 11 is gone. Okay, similar, if I put wrong parameter, like not 10, it is not exist right now, is 11 is not exist. So let me execute, execute. Okay, so it is saying 204, but yeah, we can implement such kind of things over here now, or such kind of things over here. But yeah, uh, we have to not do that in this controller, controller level. Okay, we have to that validation inside that application layer. So that will do in my next session. Okay, so yeah, in this clean architecture, how we can achieve that, uh, validation. Okay, so we'll do that because there is no sense, no make sense like we can the put logic. Yeah, we can do that, like we can get that whatever return type is a id, so we can do that, and we can set tell us over here, for example, as of now, just uh, where result. Okay, and based on the result, if if result if result equal 0. Okay, if it is 0, so then definitely it's not found. Okay, but return not, or just return bad request. Okay, return bad request. Okay, so this is one the solution, but this is not a right solution. Okay, so that's why it's just for demonstration, I'm just showing you. But in real scenario we'll achieve these things. Okay, let me check again that 11. Okay, 11 execute, and just put the debugger over here. Let me run. See, it is 0 because there is no data is available. But yeah, see, for this approach, we if we going, so that is, it is wrong, because it is going to end to end in our transaction and check in the database, so it is taking the performance issue, right? Because unnecessary, if does not have any data related to that id, so we have to not call any db. Okay, and we have to not do all the flow need to execute. Okay, that's why it's not a right things over here. We'll do, see, it's bad request, that is fine for the as of now. But yeah, what we'll do, we'll do that Fluent API, we'll implement as a Fluent API in this application layer. And in this application layer, actually, that will handle that handle that validation inside this all the commands. Okay, we'll do in the next upcoming session. Open your application layer. Okay, and inside that application layer we have a behavioral folder. Okay, so inside behavioral we have to create one more class at a generic class that will handle our validation behavior. Okay, so let's call it to validation behavioral.cs class. Okay, let's add that class inside here. Okay, and then one more things we have to check in our application layer. Go to manage packages. Okay, is there, we have already added or not that Fluent dependency packages. Okay, so if that packages exist uninstalled, okay, so that is fine. If it is not there, so then you have to install. Okay, so that is just prerequisition for this validation, Fluent API validation. Okay, so what I need to do, I just implement here, like, see, I need to create this generic class like request and response, and I need to add that mediator R class interface. Okay, so that whatever request will get, that will handle that mediator R. Okay, we don't call this class to anywhere. Okay, that will call automatically while our command query will send to our that sending to our application layer. Okay, and here just what need to do after here, so just try to implement. Okay, so go to implement interface. Okay, and make it to just create to implement over here. Okay, so how we can do that, it's very simple. First, what need to do, I have to create a constructor for that. Okay, so that I can whatever our request generic request, so that I can handle by the uh, that Fluent API validator. Okay, so the shortcut is constructor CTR, and then what I need to do, I just create enumerable and pass it to validator. Okay, and this is inside of, see, inside of that Fluent API. Okay, and then Fluent API, and then what I need to do, I have to pass the T request. Okay, and then finally I need to add one variable. Okay, and then I have to set that private property and this field and make it to assign inside the constructor. So we have to inject that validator inside that constructor level. Okay, once it is done, what I need to do, I need to put some logic for the implementation. So what would be that? Let me just trying to copy paste over here. Okay, it's very straight or simple. Let me make it to async so that that complaint can has gone. Okay, it's very simple. First we have to check whatever these validators it have any or not, it will check. One is done, then we'll create a context, and this context actually will try to validation the result. Okay, and whatever validation result we'll get, after that we check it is failure or not. If any failures error on this no command, will store over this variable, and then finally we have to throw that result and send it to next. It is very simple, nothing is complex. Okay, this is done for this validation behavior class implementation. Okay, and make it to public so that this can be accessible outside of the class. Okay, by mediator R. Okay, once it's done, then what need to do, I need to create you know that validation whatever where we want. Okay, so first I'll show you in this create command. So create command, whatever the create command will come. Okay, if any empty, like we have not passed anything. Okay, so then how we can handle, like, okay, how they request we would know, like it is empty, it is not empty, like that. Okay, so what need to do, first you have to create one one class over here that is called as a validator class. Okay, validator create block command. Okay, so let me copy this class name so that we can create a similar kind of following that naming conventions. Okay, so yeah, create block command validator. Okay, so that is fine. Let me create that class, and now what need to do, we have to just call that class. Okay, whatever we have to create it. Okay, so what is our class name? Not class, that class, but yeah, we have a call is abs. Okay, see, this is inside, we have to call actually. Okay, so what I need to call over here, I need to inherit one Fluent API abstract class. Okay, so what is that name? abs abstract validator. Okay, see, it is inside of that Fluent API validation. Okay, so let me call it here and then pass whatever your command. Okay, so what is our command we need to validate? I need to validate our create block command. Okay, and make it to public. Okay, and then what I need to do, I need to create a logic inside the constructor, so that once it will get call automatically, it should be first fired up that validation. Okay, now what I need to do, I need to write some validation logic over here. Okay, so let me get this code. Okay, it is very simple. See, I need to call rules for whatever our entity. Okay, so that entity refer for this command one. Okay, so once you referred, so you will get all the property over here. Okay, see, whatever property you will get over here. So I just pass it to this one. For the name is required. See, require rules for this, and then we have to set that. Okay, it is not empty, then name is required, and also we have set that maximum length. Okay, so two validation we have to put over here. Same things for description, we just passed the not required, and also not empty and not required. Okay, and that is done for here. Okay, and then what I need to do, the last things we have to set in this configuration, that that Fluent API configuration. Okay, so that whatever assembly we'll get, so that automatically can fire. Okay, so how we can do that? It's very simple. Let me call, that is important actually, services dot add validator, add add validator assemblies, add validators from assemblies. Okay, add validators from assembly. Okay, and then just pass it to assembly dot get assembly, so that all the assembly will can get it over here. And then what need to do, the final things we have to do over here for validation. Okay, ctg dot add behavior. Okay, and this add behavior we have to pass or whatever we have created that class, right? So that uh, we have to register over here. So type of whatever I pipeline behaviors. Okay, and in this pipeline behaviors, whatever request and response, we have to pass it over here. And then what is the implementation of that, we have to pass it over here. So what is that, we have implementation class as well, that validation behavior, which is we created from starting. Okay, validation behavior. Okay, same things we have to over here, like request and response. Okay, that's it. See, it is only two things we have to do that. Okay, let me recap again. So you have to add, you know, add validators from assembly. Okay, and get all the assemblies, execute assemblies. Okay, and then inside here you have to add behavior and you have to resolve your dependencies. Okay, okay, I think something we have missed over here, we have to just, yes, we have to bracket over here. Okay, so these two things is done. Now let me run and check it is behavior as expected or not. Okay, let me try to create without passing anything. Let me remove all the body and execute. See, it is working fine. There is a no issue. Okay, so same things you can do for all the you know, all the command, like this I created for create block, you can apply for delete, you can update. Okay, it is very simple. So thank you, have a nice day, and don't forget to subscribe.